Math versus evolution. This is the Scarecrow, and I'm going to discuss the reason why evolution is a stupid idea created by Charles Darwin, who was also an idiot and made some really bad and calculated observations. Calculated, I mean, he was looking to prove his theory, and he was not really looking at things objectively. He was looking at things to prove his goofball evolution theory, which still is unproven and still is purported to be a fact by most major colleges, universities, high schools, and elementary schools. In the textbooks that they buy from textbook manufacturers who are paid to put information in there, and these same manufacturers of the textbooks that we send to our colleges, they also print out the creation books, and they'll print whatever they're asked to print. So you can keep putting these things in the textbooks, but that doesn't make them true. Math versus evolution, I've figured out an easy way to disprove evolution, and it's through math. We'll get to that at the end of my talk. First of all, I want to discuss Darwin. Darwin wasn't that smart. His observations weren't very realistic. They weren't scientific. Again, he sought to prove his theory, not to find out the truth. He made some observations about animals and birds and trees and plants, and came to his conclusions rather smugly and, frankly, stupidly. Stupid theories. And I'm tired of creationists and scientists and mathematicians taking it up the wazoo, putting up with this evolutionary crap. So here we go. I'd like to attack, first of all, Richard Dawkins. This guy is a complete moron. He thinks he's smart, and he's not. He thinks he's great. Richard Dawkins, sorry, I almost called him Charles Darwin Dawkins. Richard Dawkins believes that the Earth was seeded by space aliens. So you can read all of his books, but what it comes down to is he's got to come up with some way to get living tissue onto the planet Earth in order for the DNA to take off and start evolving. So he came up with the lamest excuse of all: space aliens seeded the Earth. Of course, the reason that's so stupid is because where did the space aliens come from? Well, they had to, of course, pop out of thin air or evolve, that being the way that all life came to be on this planet. Space aliens are popping out of thin air. So let's talk about the chances of something popping out of thin air. Scientifically, all scientists know, as a fact, you cannot get something from nothing. And they don't want you to think about that too long. They'd rather you just read their textbooks and take their tests and agree that things can magically change on their own due to natural selection or natural circumstances, when in fact it's impossible. Nothing changes on its own. To give you an example of why math proves evolution is stupid, I'll give you the ping pong theory. Ping pong theory is this: a man walks on a stage with a bucket full of ping pong balls. He says to the crowd, "Now I will empty the ping pong balls onto the stage, and they will fall into place and form a pyramid. A beautiful, perfect pyramid." So he empties the bucket, and what happens? Well, of course, the ping pong balls scatter all over the place. And so he dutifully picks up his ping pong balls, and he says, "Okay, now this is the second time I'm going to try building a pyramid with my bucket full of ping pong balls." So he empties the ping pong balls again, and again the ping pong balls fall all over the place. So someone in the audience stands up and says, "Excuse me, Professor, but how long do you intend to keep dumping the bucket upside down to form a pyramid?" As long as it takes, says the professor. If I keep dumping these ping pong balls on the stage, eventually they'll form a pyramid. It could take billions of years, but eventually we'll get lucky, and they'll form a nice pyramid. The student leans back and says, Professor, I really doubt that you could do that. And I think you could do that all day long and not get a single ping pong ball to stay on top of another ping pong ball. This is called stupidity. This is what we're being taught in the universities, the elementary schools, and the high schools. That you can take molecules and throw them together and come up with something else. They'll magically cling together, magically form materials, they'll form substances, cells, and then you'll get something like a molecule. The molecules will pile up and form together and keep forming and forming by themselves magically until they come up with a cell of something. And this cell will swim around with all the other cells, and magically they'll form an arm or a bug or something. And we know that mathematically, evolution is impossible. It's never happened. It's never been observed. It's never going to happen, not in a billion years. Thank you, Carl Sagan, for the billions and billions and billions of times you said the word billions on your show Cosmos, which is about the stupidest show I've ever seen. Don't tell your teachers that you don't believe in evolution, or they'll flunk you. Okay, but you can privately know that the math just doesn't add up. So let's go to why the molecules cannot form anything in and of themselves. What is a molecule anyway? A molecule is a very small particle made up of what? Atoms, right? Smaller particles. What is an atom made of? Atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons, all differently charged, in a little ball moving at a ridiculous rate of speed. Well, what are protons and neutrons and electrons made of? Let's keep getting smaller. Smaller particles. We don't know. Some would suggest photons. What is a photon? Photon is a particle of light. And that's why the Bible is real. Because the Bible tells us that when God created the universe, the first thing he said was, "Let there be light." He needed light to create the universe. All things are made of light particles. The light particles have been fused together with electromagnetic force. This electromagnetic field is what binds everything together, mysteriously, for no reason at all. These electromagnetic particles form into a DNA strand, which is a program. DNA is a digital computer program designed by God, which gives all matter shape, form, and cohesion. It gives them purpose. DNA is God's program. So here's what matter is. Matter is light becoming particles, becoming DNA, forming larger pieces of material, and eventually you and me. As a fan of science TV, science fiction, the Star Trek Voyager Doctor is a holographic projection made of what? Photons. That's right. I could argue scientifically that everything you see, including you, are a digital photonic projection. How about that? The Bible versus your textbook has been proven to be real. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, which proves that the translations are accurate. The Bible code shows us that God is in control. Math proves evolution is false. Evolution is stupid. Richard Dawkins is clueless. Charles Darwin was a moron. And you, my friend, know the truth, that math disproves evolution. Evolution is a joke. Sorry. If you're a believer in evolution, man, I don't know how you can deal with the sheer volume of numbers staring at you saying could not have happened. Why would a molecule even form? Why would it form by itself? Where could it have possibly come from? There's no answer. If you're a true blue liberal godless man, there's no explanation. Aliens? Give me a break. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I'm going to talk about aliens in another video. Aliens and demons. Those are real. Guess what? Aliens are not what you might think they are. There's something else entirely. But they are real. They just didn't see the earth. Well, actually, they did in a way. But we'll talk about that on Aliens and Demons with the Scarecrow. This is the Scarecrow signing off. And God bless. SCU.
No more.